A lot of people are afraid that AI will make much of our individual human capital obsolete. Is that a reasonable fear?
It is reasonable, but at the same time, this fear has been ever present. Let me go to the extreme. The agricultural revolution. Imagine that you have all humans in the world being hunters and gatherers, and you were super good at it. And then somebody invents agriculture, and we're like, oh no, but what are we gonna do? I mean, either you learn and adapt, or you can continue doing what you're doing. But people say, well, no, I mean, it makes sense to migrate to that new technology, adopt it, and humans are incredibly adaptable. I am Pablo Peña. I'm an associate instructional professor at the University of Chicago in the Department of Economics.
As we wade deeper into the age of AI, it's increasingly hard not to feel, well, vulnerable as it outperforms many human skills. At the end of the day, what kind of work might be left for us mere mortals?
And when I talk to doomsayers, I show them a graph that displays the unemployment rate in the US from 1870 to the present. Now, in that period, we've had the mechanization of agriculture, the boom of manufacturing, and then the bust of manufacturing in the US, the rise of services, and so on. Those are massive changes. And what do you see when you look at the unemployment rate in the US? Nothing. Yes, there are ups and downs, but it's pretty much as flat as a pancake. People are scared, and yes, some people are displaced, but people are very adaptable.
Pablo Peña's article examining the enduring power of human capital in the age of AI appears in the December edition of Finance and Development magazine. Peña sat down with journalist Rhoda Metcalfe to talk about his own human-driven research into why we should not be so pessimistic.
Artificial intelligence has become so powerful. It's hard not to imagine it one day taking over our most complicated jobs, even solving the problems that exist in our societies. Can we expect that of AI?
I don't think we can expect AI to solve all of our problems because, the version of AI that we know now is a sophisticated remix of what we know already.
Right.
Although it can be used to generate new knowledge, the areas of human life where that is true, I don't think are large in the following sense. I like to think of social problems such as gang violence in Chicago or gang violence in Mexico. I was born and raised in Mexico, so to me that's a big problem. If you ask ChatGPT, hey, how do we solve the problem of gang violence in Mexico? Mm-hmm. You're going to get stuff that is kind of obvious references to studies, theories, and whatnot. What we humans do is pose questions and do stuff in the real world to try to answer them. Like we go out there and try to observe what the problem is, collect data that doesn't exist already in the internet,
right.
Come up with theories based on what we observed. Mm-hmm. Maybe if we're lucky, we get funding, we produce a study, and then that study can then become part of the stock of knowledge of humanity. And once it is there somewhere as knowledge, then AI, LLMs, these models can go and fetch it and, spread the word and tell you, hey, maybe you should try something like this. But when that study is not done, the LLM is going to be limited. It's just going to be looking back and say, well, I haven't seen any study dealing with this, but I saw one in Liberia and another in Colombia. What pushes us to create those new studies is curiosity. It's kind of this passion that is human. It's not just algorithmically determined. We want to solve a problem because we care about it.
Right.
That motivates you, and using curiosity, observation, and so on, you conduct studies that AI is not going to conduct. And then that becomes eventually information that AI can actually leverage, but not the other way around.
So a lot of it has to do with the fact that we ask questions, and AI isn't going to ask those questions of itself.
Correct. And it's not only the asking, it's also the doing things in the real world. If I could ask AI, hey, conduct this study in, say, Mexico or in the south side of Chicago and go and visit families and, talk to teachers, talk to kids that are, 12 years old about to join a gang and tell them this. AI is not going to do that.
Right.
Who's going to do it? Humans, and humans who care, humans who have curiosity.
Right. In your article, you talk about the information paradox. Can you explain what that is?
Sometimes when talking to economists, it helps a lot to use concepts that they know well, particularly financial markets. And in financial markets, there are two concepts that are important. One is the efficient market hypothesis, postulated by Eugene Fama, that said prices in financial markets incorporate all the information available, and that's why you cannot beat the market. It's like this idea that you cannot find a $20 bill on the sidewalk because if it were there, somebody else would have picked it up.
Right.
But then that notion was complemented by Sanford Grossman and Joe Stiglitz with the information paradox that pretty much says, if all the information is already embedded in prices, then I do not have an incentive to gather information and analyze it because it's already there. I'm not going to gain anything, right? I cannot beat the market. Why do any kind of research? So if nobody's gathering and analyzing information, what is the information embedded in prices? Like
Right.
this, you cannot have it both ways. If it's all there, it's because somebody's producing it. But if it's all there, nobody has incentives to produce it. So what they argue is, well, no, it's a process. Not everybody faces the same cost of acquiring and analyzing that information. And it's that process that leads to potential benefits to people that invest, and that is eventually incorporated in the price. If you do a proper analysis, you may learn that a company is doing really well and its earnings are going up, so the price is going to go up, and you buy before other people. But by your buying, you help push the price up, and then it's a process where the information is incorporated. Now, I like this to use this paradox to talk about AI because we can think in a similar way. AI contains a lot of information, but that information doesn't magically go into the belly of these large language models. It has to be produced by somebody. If suddenly all of us, everybody in the world decided that all we're going to do instead of creating new knowledge, new information, is we're going to ask ChatGPT or Claude, then we're going to stop producing new information, producing new knowledge, and then suddenly all this knowledge would become outdated.
Right.
There wouldn't be people producing new knowledge to feed those large language models.
Interesting. There's a tendency to think that AI will eventually replace human skills in all kinds of realms. You argue then when it comes to science, AI is much more capable in some fields than others. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that our reliance on AI is going to be an easier pill to swallow when it comes to hard sciences because there's not a lot of room for interpretation.
Right.
So in other words, some question related to chemistry or to physics or engineering in general. There's a formula out there. You may not know it. You may not be able to interpret it. But if you can ask and formulate your question properly, you probably can get the right answer.
Right.
But if we move to the social sciences, then we know from the start that either we don't have definite answers or we don't agree on what those answers are. Like, just imagine the big questions like, what is the purpose of human life? Imagine that ChatGPT tells you, well, no, there's no purpose. Human life has no purpose. And you're going to say, now, what does ChatGPT know about the purpose of life?
Right.
It means that whatever information we get from AI is going to be filtered through our own critical thinking. So that's why I believe that critical thinking has become more, not less important. More important since the advent of the internet and now the advent of AI.
We have a lot more information than we used to have.
More information, less curated.
Right.
In the past, there were gatekeepers, publishing houses, newspapers, news agencies. Now everybody can broadcast from their garage, blog from their kitchen, tweet from the streets, right? And now imagine these deep fakes, these AI videos that look totally real. And I've seen a few of, cats doing crazy things.
Right.
And you have to exercise your critical thinking more than ever before, because now you have to say that's clearly
absurd.
AI generated. So knowing what can explain things, the importance of that has not gone down. It's the opposite. It has gone up.
So critical thinking, analytical thinking, as sort of human skills are required more than ever.
Correct. And I think that to add to that, human capital is a collection of skills and knowledge embedded in people. And those skills and knowledge allow them to produce valuable things for society.
Sure.
So in this context, it's very important to keep in mind that, yes, we rent our human capital to our employers, right? They pay us to use our human capital at work. But that is just half of what we do with our human capital.
Mm-hmm.
The way we live our lives, like what we do outside of work, it's also using a lot of our human capital. For instance, think of raising children or planning your retirement or taking care of your own health. So you can always go to ChatGPT and say, hey, make a plan for me to save for my retirement or a plan to exercise so that I maximize my health or whatever. The fact that ChatGPT tells you, hey, you should be saving more every month, or you should exercise more, do some cardio, do some strengthening, and so on, and please reduce carbs. That's the right information, but you still need to do it.
Right.
And that requires a lot of willpower or socio-emotional skills, like sometimes called soft skills, that are part of your human capital. Those are skills that can be developed, that can be learned, that can be exercised. Even if we were at that point where we know exactly what's good for us and it's out there, getting it and doing what it takes to actually enjoy the benefits of that requires human capital.
Right. I mean, just talking about the extent to which AI could ever replace social sciences, do economists have human capital that AI will never be able to replace?
I guess I should say yes.
You hope.
I think that, yes, I believe so. Again, just the notion that there's a lot of questions out there to be asked and answered means that there's still a lot of work to do for us to produce that knowledge that then can be fed into AI. And then again, I think it's very important to remember that humans rapidly change what we want, our desires, just like we keep increasing what we call a decent living standard when technology changes. Like some of your listeners may recall that 20-something years ago, there was a big concept, the digital divide. A lot of people are reaping off the benefits of the internet and so on, but 2 billion people or 3 billion or whatever are not, they're left out. And then suddenly, smartphones became incredibly cheap.
Right.
Now, nobody talks about the digital divide. 20 years ago, it was like, oh my, what are we going to do? How do we fix it? Now it's like, how do we fix this issue of echo chambers in internet? Like when
everybody's on their phone too much.
Exactly. So we move the goalpost like all the time. So I think when we say AI is going to help us solve our problems, well, we're going to keep pushing those problems and we're going to have the goalpost farther away. And it's a complement of our skills. I don't see it as, well, are we going to rely on AI and then just like, take a nap while it does everything? No, we're going to use it like we've used other technologies in the past. Probably AI is going to be adopted in many jobs, but we're going to create new sectors and jobs, just like we did in the last 200-300 years. Sectors of the economy that are hugely important today were unimaginable 100 years ago.
Well, even less.
Exactly, even less. I just try to picture my great-great-great-grandparents, try to explain to them what it means to be a software developer. And now software developers are being kind of displaced to some extent with AI. But that talent, those resources are going to go to other sectors that we cannot think of right now. And because of that myopia, we feel threatened and we don't like the uncertainty and we're nervous. And I think it's fine to be nervous. But I think there's going to be more entrepreneurs trying to figure out how this human capital that may be displaced in some areas can be used in some other new areas that right now you and I cannot kind of fathom. But those who can, guess what, are going to make a lot of money and are going to produce a lot of value for society.
Interesting. You're an educator. How do we prepare the younger generations so they have the human capital they need to navigate the era of AI and to thrive in it?
The first step, I think, is to demystify it and not say, hey, do not use AI. Quite the opposite. I say, please use AI. But I also want you to feel the joy of learning, the feeling of mastery, of gaining mastery at something. That's why we learn to play music. I mean, if we only care about the outcome, why not just buy CDs of, the masters? Instead, we were saying, hey, I'm going to try hard, spend a lot of time trying to learn to play the guitar or the piano or the whatever, because we like the feeling of getting better at something. We like the feeling of learning and understanding and so on. So first, acknowledge that it feels good. So don't just say, hey, why would I learn it if I can get the result from somewhere else? So that's one. Number two, curiosity. Don't you want to know why that is the answer? And I think that links to critical thinking. You want to know why that is the answer in case one time you get the wrong answer. This is all about a journey where you can, use this kind of technology to create new ideas, but they're going to complement whatever you know. So you're going to be able to ask better questions and go even further if you know something. Now we don't need to memorize things. Since we have Google, why memorize anything, right?
Yeah.
Now they can ask ChatGPT or some other large language model to do it.
Right.
So that puts the burden on me of what is it exactly that I'm teaching? Calculus? No, this is an economics class. So I have to focus on actually the things that matter. Today I gave a midterm exam. Yesterday, a student came to see me and showed me how Claude, the large language model, reproduced some of my questions because I gave them practice questions. And she told me, without any apology or anything, she said, I fed your old questions to Claude and asked it to produce more questions like it to practice. And I was like, that's a great use. They're not cheating. She's not cheating. She wants to learn.
Right.
And she's telling ChatGPT, in this case, Claude, give me more of this so that I can practice. And I think that's an example. I don't claim to know what's the right way to proceed, but I think to me, instead of posting a thread, I'm like, this is fantastic. It's saving me time of teaching things that are kind of boring or mechanical,
right.
And it's letting me focus on the things that I love about economics.
Well, a very thought-provoking conversation. Thank you very much, Pablo Peña, for coming on the podcast today.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
That was Pablo Peña, Associate Instructional Professor in the Economics Department at the University of Chicago. He was speaking with Rhoda Metcalfe. Peña is also an author. His latest book is called Human Capital for Humans. And look for his article on the human edge in the December issue of Finance and Development magazine. Go to imf.org/FND. And you'll find lots more IMF podcasts on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. You can also follow us on X. Our handle is @IMF_podcast. I'm Bruce Edwards.
And I'm Rhoda Metcalfe. Thanks for listening.